Good evening, guys. Well, it's good evening here anyway in the UK. We are back for part 3. We're going to pick up from where we left off in part 2. So part 1 and part 2 of this Rule 56.1 statement response from Lively is already done. The videos are out. I'm doing roughly 40 to 50 minute videos per section. We are currently on page 56 of 259. So there is going to be quite a few more videos coming out to get through it. And I will be standing by the fact I intend to do each statement and each response. I'm not just going to cherry pick ones that are the most sensationalist or entertaining. I think I do feel very strongly that it's quite important to go through everything, even the boring bits. And sometimes the boring bits, what sound like they're boring on the surface, can actually be the most interesting or informative, actually. And quite often you find entertaining bits of tea in them as well, which some people may gloss over because it's not about Van Zan, or it's not about, a sexual harassment claim per se, or it's not a text message. I always think it's definitely worth spending a bit of time reading these things properly. It's not for everyone, I do understand that. But I'm trying to do the videos, keep them to about 50 minutes tops where possible, absolutely under an hour, just so it's like manageable for each section. But we will get through this. I anticipate it's probably going to be at least another 4 or 5 videos. Okay. So we are going to just leave off. We were at point 139. So we're just going to go back to, we finished up on point 138. So now we're going to start point 139. Wayfarer's original. So what it is Wayfarer's original statement that they put in their Rule 56.1 statement, which I've done a video on at the time they filed their motion for summary judgment and judgment on the pleadings. Summary judgment, sorry. This is Lively responding to that. So we read their response and then Lively's response. There is quite a bit redacted, as always, from both sides. I can't just even say it's Lively. Where the actual statement is redacted, not Lively's response, but the statement, it's redacted because Wayfarer redacted it in their original statement. So, which is fine. I have been asked as well, will I be doing another video on these statements when they are unsealed? And the answer is yes, absolutely yes, because, why not? But what I'll probably do is, because I've done this all in one hit, because I'm dealing with it now over several small videos, we will probably, I'm making a note of what's redacted and what's not. So I will go back and just cover the unsealed parts and not do all the parts I've already done. Okay, so point 139. This is obviously starting with Wayfarer's statement. On June 1st, 2023, Lively asked Baldoni Heath and producer Alex Sachs into her trailer. Lively discussed various topics, including Baldoni's comment that the wardrobe for Lively's character looked sexy or hot, Heath showing Lively an image of his wife at the time she gave birth, an instance in which Heath entered her makeup trailer while Lively was in a state of undress, an instance in which Baldoni had cried in her trailer over the negative public reaction to Lively's casting, and Heath and Baldoni's practice of hugging other cast and crew members. Okay. Lively's response. Undisputed that Lively raised concerns about each of these topics to Sachs, Heath, and Baldoni during the June 1st, 2023 meeting, but disputed that such concerns were with respect to A. Comments about Lively's wardrobe, redacted, B. Heath showing Lively an image around the time of his wife's birth rather than a video of redacted. And C, only Heath entering her trailer rather than also redacted after she asked him to turn away. Okay, the rest is redacted. Next point, Baldoni and Heath attempted to explain the innocent context and apologised for any discomfort Lively may have experienced. Lively, undisputed that Baldoni and Heath tried to justify their decision. So an apology these days is justifying their decision to show Lively a video of Heath's naked wife giving birth, claiming that they thought she wanted to see it. Disputed as to the characterization of their explanation as providing innocent context, which is argumentative and unsupported by the record. Then there's a part that's redacted. The cited testimony does not establish that the context was innocent, only that Baldoni and Heath offered their own justification after the fact. Point 141 is entirely redacted. Lively's response to it, undisputed that the quoted language appears in Gianetti's deposition. And then we've got what I refer to as a but. So Lively sometimes says things are undisputed or they are disputed and then leaves it at that. Or where she can't dispute it but wants to dispute it, she puts in a quote that is basically it's undisputed that the quoted language appears in Gianetti's deposition in this case, but Lively respectfully refers the court to the deposition transcript for its complete contents. So it's like well, I don't dispute it. I want to, but I can't. However, judge, go and look at the whole transcript for the complete contents. And then there's a bit more, even though redacted. Point 142 is redacted. Lively. Undisputed that Slate spoke with Gianetti and Sachs about issues on the production. The remainder is disputed as incomplete and misleading. Slate raised multiple concerns about Baldoni and Heath, which were not primarily focused on Lively's concerns about the set. There's a big chunk redacted. In a text to Gianetti that same day, Sachs noted that redacted concerns were very bad and stated, "I think we need to replace our director and Heath should not be on set." Sachs went on to share that that redacted would really prefer to never see Heath again. And we know that's Jenny Slate because we've read the deposition where that is said. That's in Alex Sachs's deposition. So, I mean, some of these other parts, I don't understand why they're redacted because they've already been, shared. But we know Alex Sachs wanted Justin replaced as director, and I went off on a tangent about that because she does not get to make that decision. She also took issue with Heath being on set because she felt that she was the producer. Heath was obviously also a producer, but she felt that she was the more experienced, which she may have been right about. But she was very much upset by the fact that they were not letting her just get on with it and, just get on with, deal with the film, lead the film. So she didn't want Heath on set and she wanted them both replaced, which is absolutely insane demands that people are making when these people are the ones who own the rights to the book. They are the ones who are adapting it into a movie, and it's their production company that is producing the film and financing it. So, yeah. I mean, I've got a big bee in my bonnet about Alex Sachs. I have done deep dives on her before, and she has taken advantage previously, though she has a history of taking advantage of a man, Andrew Duncan, on the Florida project when he was When he was accused of sexual harassment, she basically reacted by taking full control of his production company, June Pictures. So when you see June Pictures, that is what Alex Sachs took basically control of, whilst the whilst the other person who also founded that company was being accused of sexual harassment. So there's an MO to these women, and they all just felt like they were all brought on to do specific jobs, and then wanted to push their boundaries and basically insert themselves in the men's roles. Not that they were separate roles, it's just it was always going to be Justin Baldoni directing this film. People are saying, well, Colleen Hoover didn't want a man to direct film. I haven't seen that anywhere. So, and why shouldn't he? I'm astounded by some of these demands that are being made. I really am. Okay, let's move on. So next point, 143. On May 30th, 2023, Baldoni wrote messages to Lively and Slate separately, thanking them for their work and stating, "I was made fully aware of your concerns. I wanted you to know that they are fully received. I hear you and adjustments will be made accordingly. I appreciate your feedback and really looking forward to working with you at the end of the week." So that was quoting a message he sent to Jenny Slate, and he sent one to Blake Lively separately using similar language. Okay. Her response, undisputed, and then we get the but, please refer to the full document for the complete contents. And then she says, additionally, and then redacts the rest of it. Next point, Giannatti testified, redacted. Lively, undisputed that the quoted language appears, but Lively refers the court. And then there's more that's redacted. Next point, neither Lively nor anyone else have identified any other incidents that they believe may have constituted sexual harassment or discrimination after June 1st, 2023. Lively, disputed. And then there's a lot that's redacted. Further, the entire course of retaliatory conduct that began with Baldoni's redacted, which was ongoing and continues to this day. In addition, defendants have engaged in an ongoing course of retaliatory harassing conduct, including by redacted. The next point is redacted entirely. Lively, undisputed as to Slate's testimony, disputed to the extent that it suggests Lively ever asked or suggested redacted, which is not supported by the cited evidence and which redacted. Next point, Sarowitz has no first-hand knowledge of anyone on the set of It Ends With Us advising Baldoni that any behaviour was unwelcome. Lively's response, undisputed that the paraphrased language appears in Wayfarer's Exhibit 6, but Lively respectfully refers the court to the deposition transcript for its complete contents. Prior to this litigation, Sarowitz was not aware of any formal HR complaints that were filed in connection with the film. Lively, disputes, redacted, and then there's more that's redacted further down. Next point. Sarowitz was not aware of any SAG complaints that were raised concerning Baldoni's behaviour on the set of the film. Lively, undisputed. Next point. Nor was he aware of any reported allegations of misconduct prompting a HR investigation at Wayfarer Studios. Lively, disputed. And then there's a bunch that's redacted. Next point. Nor does Sarowitz have any knowledge of any actual behaviour on set that could be described as sexual advances or requests for sexual favours, verbal abuse of a sexual nature, commentary about an individual's body, sexual prowess or sexual deficiencies, sexual jokes and innuendo, leering, whistling or touching, insulting or obscene comments or gestures, display in the workplace of a sexually suggestive objects or pictures, or other physical, verbal, or visual conduct of a sexual nature outside of the subject matter of the film itself. Lively, disputed, and then it's redacted. Yeah, the whole response then is redacted. Next point. Sarowitz is not aware of any complaints raised on set that were not resolved. Lively disputes this, and almost the entire response is redacted. The cited evidence does not support that the foregoing were resolved. Next point. Sarowitz was aware that Jenny Slate had a concern on set at one point, but he was not aware of the specifics of the issue and believed it was resolved. To his knowledge, there were no additional issues or concerns raised by Slate. Lively says it's disputed, and then her response is redacted. Next point. Sarowitz has never talked to Slate or met her. Lively, undisputed. Next point. Sarowitz is unaware of any alleged complaint by Lively that Baldoni referred to her as sexy. Lively, disputed, and then her response is redacted. On June 1st, 2023, and then the rest is redacted. Lively's response, undisputed that the quoted language appears in Wayfarer's Exhibit 100, but Lively respectfully refers the court, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next point. Filming halted on June 14th, 2023 due to the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Lively, undisputed. On July 19th, 2023, approximately 1 month after filming had been interrupted due to the writers' strikes, Lively wrote to redacted. She told redacted. Lively says it's undisputed, but refers the court to the cited source. On August 29th, 2023, Lively wrote to her agent, redacted. That is also undisputed, but refers the court to cited source. Undisputed on August 29th, 2023, Lively wrote to redacted. During the next 2 months, Lively did not file any HR complaint. Lively says undisputed that Lively did not file a HR complaint between August 29th, 2023 and October 29th, 2023. On November 9th, 2023, Lively's attorney sent Emin Mezian, Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs at Wayfarer, and Joseph Lanius, outside counsel to Endless Movie, a list of protections for return to production. Lively, undisputed. Okay. In an email accompanying the list, Lively's attorney stated that the list was being provided to, quote, remedy the misconduct that Miss Lively and others had allegedly reported. Lively's attorney further stated that the items on the list would need to be observed by the film's producers in order for Lively to feel safe returning to the production. The email also stated, while we reserve all legal rights, at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film, as long as the set is safe moving forward. It continued, this letter is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as a waiver, release, or relinquishment of any of our clients' rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. Okay. Lively's response disputed that the language to remedy the misconduct that Miss Lively and others had allegedly reported appears in the cited source. Undisputed that the remaining quoted language appears in the cited source with the correction that it says it is not intended to be, rather than this letter is not intended to be. Okay. Lively respectfully refers the court to the cited source. Next point. Lively requested that an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when she was on set. Lively, undisputed that Lively requested that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when she returned to the set after the hiatus. Next point, it ends with us movie had already retained an intimacy coordinator, redacted. Bearing in mind, just remember, in her CRD and her original complaint, I can't remember if her first amended and second amended said the same, but she maintained that they did not have an intimacy coordinator. So the next point, it ends with us movie had already retained an intimacy coordinator, redacted. I know I said it once, I'm just repeating that. Her response, undisputed that an intimacy coordinator was hired in April 2023 and made available to Lively for a meeting prior to the start of filming, but disputed to the extent this fact is intended to imply that this is the same as the condition Lively requested, i.e., that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times. We're splitting hairs again. I mean, I get it. Like, okay, they had an intimacy coordinator, but she's saying, well, yeah, I get that, but I asked for one to be present at all times, which is not a normal demand, by the way. That's just a diva demand. Okay. I mean, you got to think, right? Because she's saying, well, there was hardly any sex. Colleen Hoover says this was not an erotic book, etc., etc. You know, the book was not about sex. We made it PG-13, but yet she needed an intimacy coordinator at all times. Why? If there wasn't that much in terms of sex scenes, and it wasn't an R-rated movie, then why was an intimacy coordinator needed at all times? I don't understand. And this was a second intimacy coordinator that Wayfarer had to hire. It wasn't the same intimacy coordinator at the start. I don't know whether they could get that intimacy coordinator on a full-term basis or not, or whether Lively did not want that particular one and wanted someone else, probably someone she chose, like everything else. Okay. Next point. Lively requested a closed set for any scene involving simulated sex or nudity, subject to a nudity rider, and demanded that there be no rehearsal or filming of intimate scenes without such a rider in place. Lively also sought an exception to the closed set requirement for an unspecified representative of her choosing. Lively disputed as to the summary and characterization of Lively's requests at paragraphs 2, 7, and 15 of second amended complaint, which were as follows. 2. There must be a closed set during the rehearsal or filming of any scene involving simulated sex or nudity, and any observation via remote monitors shall be restricted to essential personnel as approved by Blake Lively, to be further described in a fully negotiated, fully executed, SAG-compliant nudity rider. 7. There shall be no rehearsal or filming of any nudity and or simulated sex without the nudity rider in place. Any such footage previously shot without the nudity rider in place and in direct violation of SAG requirements may not be used without Blake Lively's and her legal representative's prior written consent. And then 15. Any rehearsal or shooting involving Miss Lively or any other performer depicting the character of Lily that involves nudity, or including partial nudity or simulated sex, must be conducted strictly in accordance with the nudity rider and must adhere to the approved script. So that's how she took over Isabella Ferrer's nudity rider, which the scenes had already been shot. Isabella Ferrer had already, completed her own nudity rider. She was a grown-ass woman. She was playing the part of a minor, and she was playing a younger version of Blake Lively's character, Lily Bloom. But for some reason, I do not know why she requested this. She didn't even share a scene with Isabella Ferrer. How she got control over another adult actress's nudity rider is just wild. And then 8, Blake Lively may have a representative of her choosing present with her on set for the remainder of the rehearsal and shooting days, including while on a closed set. Okay. I mean, technically that is an exception to the closed set protocol. So, next point. The film's intimacy coordinator had already sought Lively's input on all intimate scenes in advance, and the parties had negotiated a nudity rider that Lively had already been provided. Lively disputed. The cited document does not support the proposition that the film's intimacy coordinator had already sought Lively's input on all intimate scenes in advance. The film's intimacy coordinator for the first phase of filming redacted. Next point. Lively requested pre-approval of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity. Lively disputed as to the summary and characterization of Lively's requests at paragraph 3 of second amended complaint, which were as follows. There is to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity. Scenes of kissing, depictions of sexual intercourse, or any other physical touching must be contained in the screenplay as approved by Blake Lively. I mean, is there anything that Justin got to approve here? Choreographed in advance in the presence of the intimacy coordinator and may only proceed as choreographed with the consent of all participants in advance. And yet, allegedly, she improvised kissing scenes with Justin Baldoni that weren't scripted and without his consent or an intimacy coordinator. Okay, next point. The offer letter. Setting out the basic terms of Lively's participation already provided that there would be no nudity or simulated sex without artist's prior written consent and negotiation execution of a nudity rider. Lively. Undisputed that the offer letter provided that there would be no nudity or simulated sex without artist's prior written consent and negotiation execution of a nudity rider, but disputed that this term already provided the protection sought in Lively's protections for return to production. Next point. Lively requested that any footage involving any nudity and or simulated sex previously shot without the rider in place would not be used. Okay. Disputed. Lively requested the following. There shall be no rehearsal of filming of any nudity and or simulated sex without the nudity rider in place. Any such footage previously shot without the nudity rider in place and in direct violation of SAG requirements may not be used without Blake Lively's and her legal representatives' prior written consent. Okay. Next point. There were no such scenes, and then there's a bunch redacted. Lively's response disputed. A scene in, and then it's redacted, covering her genitals. So we know she's talking about the birth scene. I'm not quite sure why this is redacted. We know that's going to be referring to the birth scene, and she is saying, well, that was simulated nudity. And I just made this point actually in the comment section in my previous video, but if you're playing a character who is giving birth in a scene, everyone knows that is going to be technically simulated nudity. That does not mean that you are going to be nude, by the way. That is just that it is going to be filmed in a way where, it's plausible that you are nude. Now, that does not mean that Blake Lively's genitals are going to be displayed in the film. They weren't. Or nothing like it, actually. But for a woman who has given birth 4 times and keeps telling everyone that she has, I am confused as to why she thinks that a birth scene is going to be anything but simulated nudity, not actual nudity, simulated. Because every woman who gives birth, and this is whether it is, you know, a natural birth or a cesarean section, they do it without wearing underwear. So it would be confusing to the audience if it wasn't simulated as being nude from the waist down. However, as someone quite rightly pointed out in the comments, and I fully agree and share the view, simulated nudity is not actual nudity. And I am really confused that she's got her, forgive the expression, panties in a bunch over this. Because what did she expect it would be? That she was going to be fully clothed? A stork was going to deliver the baby? I mean, this woman is so delusional for someone who also, you know, will sit and cite their experience of childbirth. We move on. I don't see it as a, you know, your typical nudity thing. I certainly don't see it as a sexualized thing that needed intimacy coordinators and, you know, etc. etc. I don't get why this is. How many films have we seen? You know, Look Who's Talking. How many films have there been where someone has been depicted, an actress has had to play a woman giving birth, and no one has kicked up this fuss, demanded a close set, you know, demanded this, that, and the other, you know, claimed sexual harassment from it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. She was entirely wrong for this role. But the fact is, right, is she was in the film The Shallows, yeah, where she was in a bikini on a deserted island. I haven't watched it, but from what I've been told, you know, a deserted island that was being circled by a shark or sharks. And she probably wore less in that film than she did in this birth scene. Okay. And as I just remind everyone, in the last video, she actually admitted to the prosthetic belly and the hospital gown. She admitted that she wore them. Okay, so next point. There were no such scenes, and there's a bunch redacted. Oh, I'm on that. I've just done that point. Right. So yeah, she disputed that a scene in redacted covering her genitals, clearly talking about the birth scene. Right. So next point. Lively requested that no one enter her trailer while she was in a state of undress. Her response, undisputed, that Lively requested that no one will enter, attempt to enter, interrupt, pressure, or request entrance for Blake Lively's trailer while she's in the state of undress for any reason. I mean, I don't know why the request entrance for the trailer is in there, because how are people supposed to know whether she's in a state of undress or not unless they, you know, knock the door and someone tells them that she is in a state of undress, come back later. Point 172 is entirely redacted. Lively, undisputed that redacted, but after that, Heath entered Lively's trailer without permission, and then the rest is redacted. Again, Alex Sachs says, who was with him when Heath went to that trailer? Alex Sachs says he was invited in, but asked to turn away. Next point, 173, is entirely redacted. Plaintiff Lively, undisputed. Next point, Lively requested an A-list stunt double approved by herself to rehearse and perform any scenes depicting rape or sexual violence. Lively, undisputed, that Lively requested for Wayfarer to engage an A-list stunt double, so the stunt double was of higher caliber than Lively, who is a C-list at best. Approved by Miss Lively to rehearse and perform any scenes involving the character Lily that depicts rape or any act of sexual violence. Miss Lively will only perform close-up work or other pre-approved shots for such scenes. Next point, the offer letter setting out the basic terms of Lively's participation already provided that Lively had approval rights over any double. So this was in, so the request for a stunt double of her choosing and body double were in the 17-point list for demands. However, they were actually already in the offer letter that she could have the rights to say approve anything and everyone, including the director, including Justin Baldoni's stunt double and body double, including the private jet that Wayfarer allowed her to use, including the car and the driver that Wayfarer allowed her to use. The control this woman had was wild. I know I keep going off on a tangent about that, but it really pisses me off that she's claiming that she was powerless while she had all of this control. Like I've never seen someone with this amount of control in any employment claim. So the offer letter set out the basic terms of Lively's participation already provided that Lively had approval rights over any double, and she does not dispute it. Undisputed that the offer letter provided that there would be no digitizing or doubling in connection with nudity or simulated sex without artist's prior written consent, but disputed that this term already provided the protection. So she had it, but it wasn't enough, and it did not already protect her. The protection sought in Lively's protections for return to production. Oh my god, this is so stupid. Next point. Lively requested that there was to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity. She disputes that the quoted language appears in the cited paragraph. Undisputed that Lively requested there to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity. Unless she was the one who was spontaneously improvising the scenes, of course. Next point. On May 19th, 2023, Lively oversaw a scene she herself added to the script in which her character kissed Baldoni's character in every take, although there was no kiss in the script. They included a video clip excerpt, by the way. She disputes it. The source cited does not support the assertions that Miss Lively oversaw a scene that she herself added to the script. Redacted. Why is it redacted? Next point. Lively requests that no comments be made concerning her personal physical appearance. Lively's response, disputed. Lively requested the following. 4. Physical touching and or comments on Blake Lively's physical appearance must only be made in connection with the character and scene work, not as to Blake Lively personal. And yet, that is when Baldoni called her character's wardrobe sexy, she still had a bitch fit. Except as written into the screenplay or as strictly required in connection with makeup or costume preparation, there is to be no physical touching, including hugging, of Blake Lively, her on-set personnel and or her employees. Point 179 is entirely redacted, and Blake Lively's response disputed that the documents cited support that Lively redacted. Okay, so that was helpful. Next point. On one occasion, Lively advocated redacted. Her response, undisputed that redacted. We're getting to the boots. Video footage also shows Lively explaining to a group of male crew members why her boots are so sexy because they are just bone hitting wood. And she's put undisputed. Awesome. Because you can't dispute it. The video clip was included as okay. Next point, Lively also commented on the physical appearance of other actors in connection with the project, both before and after issuing these demands. A. When discussing one potential actor in the film with Baldoni on March 29th, 2023, Lively said she was meeting Redacted. They've exhibited her exhibit as supporting for this. B. When discussing the marketing of the film in May 2024, Lively wrote to a younger male cast member, Redacted. Lively's response, disputed. It was Baldoni, not Lively, who commented on the physical appearance of other actors in connection with the project when he wrote that he was meeting Redacted. Undisputed that Lively redacted. Point 183 is entirely redacted, and her response is it's undisputed that in a text exchange, redacted, otherwise disputed. Okay. Lively requested there be no physical touching, including hugging, of herself, her on-set personnel, and or her employees. Lively. Undisputed that the quoted language appears in the cited source, but Lively respectfully refers the court, blah, blah, blah. Next point. Lively herself had initiated hugs with Baldoni, and I have seen this in behind-the-scenes videos, as had several members of her staff. She disputes it. The testimony cited does not support defendant's assertion that Lively herself had initiated hugs with Baldoni or that several members of her staff had initiated hugs with Baldoni. When she says the evidence does not support that, the evidence that she's referring to is Justin Baldoni's deposition transcript. So she's basically calling him a liar. But I have seen behind-the-scenes footage where she goes in for a hug with Justin. So I know that at least on one occasion that is true. The rest of that response is redacted. Next point. More broadly, all staff members had engaged in large redacted. A producer on the film observed that redacted. Lively. Undisputed that redacted. Undisputed that Sachs observed a lot of hugging and touching amongst the Wayfarer team and recalled Lively asking that the set be more professional. Okay, now I'm going to get annoyed. She wanted the set to be more professional, yet she was holding all of these meetings in her own home with her friends around, with her kids and her nannies. Wayfarer had an office that she could have gone to in New Jersey, but she could not get her ass out of her own home. That's the one thing I have actually noticed about this, right? Is she does not like being away from her own home. It's like she's a hermit. She only goes somewhere else if her husband is there. But she had all these so-called meetings, raising concerns, shouting at her boss in front of her mates or her nannies or her assistants or her kids. And, she was calling in sick when in reality she was going to Taylor Swift concerts. And she kept delaying returning to work, not because she had concerns, but because Deadpool restarted shooting, right? That 9th of November letter was perfectly timed because, do you know what? I'm so annoyed. I'm actually going to pull it up. Right, okay, I'm going to share this now, right? This is the announcement. Deadpool 3 gets exciting filming update after strike is ended. Published 9th of November 2023. Same date as her return to production demands. I don't call them protections because they're not protections. She had a lot of that stuff already in place. Some of it was just flat out frivolous, and some of it was just all about getting her PGA credit. But the whole purpose of it was to delay her going back to the set because she wanted to stay with Ryan Reynolds while he was filming in the UK. That's what that was. But yet she's sitting here like, oh, well, I want the set to be more professional. She was probably the most unprofessional person on it. Talking about her shoes that were sexy, like bone hitting wood. And acting like someone who had no idea that you had to be nude from the I'm getting annoyed, the waist down. Or simulated nude. Simulated nude. Don't sue me. Right, okay, I'm gonna move on. This is like therapy sometimes, going through this stuff. Like I get to just rant and it's like, I feel better now. Okay. Next point. Video footage shows Baldoni hugging male members of the cast and crew as well. And this is important because she is suggesting that she is getting hugged and female cast members are getting hugged, and it's because they're female they're all being hugged. Her response to this allegation that Baldoni hugged male members of the cast and crew as well, undisputed. Next point. Lively requested that there were to be no discussions of personal experiences with sex or nudity. Undisputed that Lively requested that there be no discussions of personal experiences with sex or nudity, including as it relates to conduct with spouses or others. Next point. Lively had previously volunteered to Baldoni details of her personal sex life. She disputes it. The cited testimony does not support the assertion that Lively volunteered details of her personal sex life. Baldoni's testimony at most claims Lively spoke about a hypothetical situation, not her personal experiences. And I agree, it could be taken that way. It could be taken as a hypothetical situation. But she was still saying that what she was saying was that she would be mortified if she did not make her husband climax. Whilst that might be a hypothetical situation because, who knows, she is a beard, it's still her kind of sharing her thoughts and feelings about what she would do in that scenario. Next point is entirely redacted. Lively disputed. The cited source does not support the assertion that redacted. Next point. Lively's list also included several items that were wholly unrelated to her sex, gender, or physical appearance, including demands that Baldoni not speak to her dead father, mention his own religious beliefs, or ask for hers, or have private multi-hours meetings in Lively's trailer with Mr. Baldoni crying, as well as a demand that Lively receive notice of COVID exposures on set. Her response. Undisputed that Lively privately had a more fulsome list of protections on her phone that included additional items such as no more mention by Mr. Baldoni of him speaking to Blake Lively's dead father, no more pressing by Mr. Baldoni for Blake Lively to discuss her religious beliefs or unsolicited sharing of his. No more private multi-hour meetings in Blake Lively's trailer with Mr. Baldoni crying with no outside Blake Lively appointed representative to monitor. No more pressing by Mr. Baldoni to sage any of Blake Lively's employees, and no more asking or pressuring Blake Lively to cross physical picket lines. Okay. And I mean, they didn't ask her to cross a physical picket line. She did not need to continue on the strike. The set was given the green light to restart shooting. So she's been ridiculous there. Okay. Disputed that these additional items were wholly disputed that these additional items were wholly unrelated to her sex, gender, or physical appearance, which is improper argument. I mean, how is notice of COVID or talking about religion anything to do with her sex, gender, or physical appearance? She's disputing it anyway. On November 11th, Meziane explained to Lively's representatives that certain of the 17 protections were not viable. Lively, disputed. On November 11th, Ms. Meziane responded that Wayfarer found most of the requests not only reasonable but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. Ms. Meziane only rejected a single request in its entirety, the request for Wayfarer to engage an additional experienced A-level producer, because they had producers. Approved by Ms. Lively to actively supervise the production, including monitoring the safety of the cast and crew, ensuring compliance with the schedule, and overseeing logistics, problem solving, and creative issues. And one has to wonder if she was so tight knit with Alex Sachs, and must have known Alex Sachs wanted to be the head producer, because she was so upset by the fact that Jamie Heath was in that position. Then why did she not just say, she wanted Alex Sachs? Why did she have to bring on Todd Black, who worked on her husband's Deadpool film, for this purpose? And I can understand that situation, because this request actually cost Wayfarer a lot of money. And it was wholly unnecessary. Okay. So the next request is entirely redacted, Lively, disputed, and the rest of her response is redacted. The next response is also fully redacted. Lively's response, disputed, the cited sources do not support defendants' assertions that redacted. Okay. I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to move on to do the next video. Okay, so I'll be back with part 4 soon.